continue on with this beautiful day. Thank you so much for coming out today. Matt, you have a lot of friends. That's great. My name is Colin Hastings. I'm the Executive Director of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, and today we'll have a keynote by our outgoing mayor, Matt Watkins, as well as a presentation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, giving an award to our Congressman, Dan Newhouse. So thank you so much for attending today, and thanks to the Port of Pasco and Tri-Cities Airport for being today's sponsor. At this time, I'd like to invite you to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Please have a seat. We have a few elected officials I'd like to take a moment out and acknowledge their presence here today. Of course, Congressman Dan Newhouse. Let's give him a round of applause. And joining him today are his staff, Jamie Daniels and Josh Lozano. So they're the faces here locally. Franklin County Commissioner Bob Cook. I thought I saw Bob. There he is. Bob's got a good attendance streak going, I gotta say, too. Sheriff Jim Raymond, right there. Franklin County Prosecutor Sean Sant. There. Franklin County Clerk Michael Killian. Of course, our Mayor Matt Watkins. And then City Council Member Blanche Barajas. Did she make it? Yeah, there she is. There's Blanche. Port of Pasco Commissioners Jim Clinworth and Gene Reichman. Right there and right there. And Franklin PUD Commissioners Bill Gordon and Stu Nelson. Stu's walking in a little late. Bob, I thought you were going to beat his streak of attending so many Pasco Chamber lunches in a row, but Stu just snuck in. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge a representative from the U.S. Chamber, Anna Salick, right here. I know we've been joined by quite a few of our Pasco Chamber past presidents, so I'd like to list them off and then acknowledge their presence as well, too. I know Ryan Brault is here, Derek Brownson. Daryl Ebert was going to make it, but unfortunately had to cancel last minute. Lance Hobson, I saw, was here. Julie Killian. Kevin Williams. Did I miss anybody else? Oh, yes, of course. The Godfather himself, Ed Ray. Let's please give him a round of applause. Oh, and Dennis Giese. Sorry, I knew Dennis. See, there was one that snuck in there on us. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a great turnout. We like having a lot of folks come to our luncheons. We hope that we're providing you with a lot of information that you can take home and share with your neighbors as well for the series that we have on a monthly basis. We have had a few, we have some upcoming events, and we just got over one major event, and I assume maybe you all were there because we had a huge crowd at Asparagus Fest this last Saturday. Bill Middleton's here. That's where we hosted at Middleton Six Sons Farms, and that's why we have asparagus today too. But I'd like to thank Middleton's and the Asparagus Commission for doing such a good job of putting this together. Let's give them a round of applause. And because of that, that's why we're a little disjointed at getting this luncheon together. We're kind of working on a hangover from all the work that we did on Saturday. And then, of course, it was Mother's Day yesterday, so we're kind of just scurrying around, getting everything all put together today. So we appreciate your patience and putting that and working with us and bearing with us on that. But what a great event. We had, over, I think, 1,500 people that showed up, somewhere in that neighborhood. Could have been more. It seemed like they were all thirsty, too, because we had some pretty big lines for beer, but we got through it, too. But amazing samples that we had there as well. We've had nothing but positive feedback for that. And I like the fact that we're promoting something that's locally grown. And it's a big industry, obviously, to this area, and really brings the fun into it, and I think that's what people really enjoyed with that. And there's a lot of donations that were out there that made this this event possible, and of course we're looking forward to next year too. And always help out the industry. I mean, asparagus is going to be in season now for a little while longer, so make sure you purchase some. I know I had some yesterday for Mother's Day, so I think I made it pretty good. Not as good as Back 40 Barbecue for their samples, but it was pretty good. Coming up right around the corner, it seems like there's no rest for the weary, but the Pasco Chamber wants to be the official fun spot for Pasco this summer, and I forgot the tagline. It's something like that. I got to work on my delivery. But Sagebrush Scramble's coming up here in June, just right across the road here, and that's a real neat event. Just kind of relax, skip out of work a little bit early on a Thursday afternoon, get to meet some good neighbors and friends that you haven't seen maybe in a while, and we have a really good dinner afterwards. So we still have spots available for teams and whole sponsorships too. So you're going to really be hearing a lot from us here in the next few weeks to get that put together, but always a fun time. I know we probably have a few past champions of the Sagebrush Scramble in the room. I know that Derek's here, and Dust Devils and Durashine, but pretty nice trophies. I know that they're on their desks somewhere in their offices. But and then the following month, right before our Water Follies Columbia Cup, is kind of a new event to us, but we're starting to gain quite a bit of momentum. Not quite on the asparagus level yet, but our Crawdad Boil is coming up July 20th. Actually, the pre-sale tickets are looking really good. It's in a great setting at Osprey Point, right on the river. And the crayfish, crawfish, however you want to say it, I say crawdads, are locally sourced as well too. So there is a burgeoning commercial market outside of Clarkston, and that's where these crawdads are coming from. And we have the best cooks in town that know what they're doing and putting together. Plus we have a lot of fun and games and Zydeco music. It's a really neat celebration and a fun time of year. It seems like the Tri-Cities is just the hot spot for fun stuff in the summertime, and so we're happy to be a part of that. And of course, wrapping up our summer, of course, is Riverfest, and that really has a impact here economically throughout the Northwest, quite frankly, highlighting the importance of our hydropower electrical system and all the benefits that it gives us, whether it's our electricity, our agriculture, our tourism. The list is extremely long of the benefits that we have, the transportation that it provides, and jobs, quite frankly, because it's all interconnected to what we do. So maybe Congressman Newhouse might touch on that a little bit later, but we want to make sure we do our job in communicating that to our area and educating the whole Northwest, but especially here in a family friendly sort of environment where kids have a chance to get their hands dirty on some different sort of activities, and parents get to learn a little bit more. And last year we kind of hit the ball out of the ballpark, and we had over 3,000 people show up for that. And so again, we're looking forward partners in that as well too. So if you have any interest, feel free to call the Pasco Chamber. We'd like to have you a part of that. Your story is important because it's somehow it seems like it always interconnects with our economy. And so last year we had 50 different exhibitors telling their stories, and I have a feeling we'll be probably bumping up against 100 this year because there's a lot of people that really liked what we were able to accomplish. So now with that, I want to kind of take a little segue here and introduce and invite Anna and Congressman Newhouse to come up for a presentation from the U.S. Chamber. So with that, let's give them a warm applause. Welcome them up.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Solik. I'm the Senior Manager of the Northwest Regional Office for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We're located in Seattle. I want to start by thanking Colin and the Pasco Chamber team, but also all of you as members. It's with your support and the support of 1,500 other local, state, and chamber state and local chamber members that the U.S. Chamber is able to do what we're able to do. So thank you. For the past 31 years, the Chamber has tracked how members of Congress vote on legislation that is important to the business community. Each year, we present the Spirit of Enterprise Award to those members who supported the Chamber's position at least 70% of the time on bills that we identified as the most important to America's job creators. The Spirit of Enterprise recognizes leaders who understand the important role businesses play in creating jobs and growing our communities. As Tom Donahue, the Chamber's CEO, said, by advancing good legislation, these members of Congress are helping businesses grow and thrive, keeping our economy strong, and promoting the free enterprise system that drives opportunity and prosperity. In 2018, the Chamber scored members on 12 votes, on 12 House votes. On those votes, Representative Dan Newhouse earned a 92% pro-business voting record. This includes votes to reduce healthcare costs, to strengthen our immigration system, modernize the FAA, and to assist Native American communities. None of this was no surprise to us, as his 93% lifetime score indicates. Representative Newhouse has consistently demonstrated that he knows what sound business policy and when he sees it. On behalf of the U.S. Chamber and our local partners throughout Washington, please join me in thanking Representative Newhouse for his continued dedication to policies that grow and strengthen businesses of all sizes here in Washington and across the nation. Congratulations. Thank you so much. It's a little sharp. Yeah, thank you.
Did you see that? That's pretty cool. I'm standing here thinking, what's the one vote I missed? I'm going to have to ask you what that was. But it's a pleasure to be able to accept this award from the U.S. Chamber. I appreciate it, Anna. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Pasco Chamber for allowing me to have this happen here today. I can't tell you how proud I am to represent the 4th District here in Central Washington. It's a dynamic place, as you know. All you have to do is drive up and down I-82 to see all the great things that are happening in Central Washington, particularly in the Tri-Cities. I think this is the fastest growing area in the whole state. If it isn't, it's darn close to it, and it has been for a long time. And a lot of it is because of many of the people sitting in this room. I see my job as making sure that you have the tools available to you to continue to grow your businesses, be successful, to hire people and make our communities, allow our communities to continue growing. And so I'll continue to do that, whether it's in agriculture to make sure we sell all that asparagus that we produce, or any of the other fine products that we have here in Central Washington. Make sure we have the right trade deals in place, which is something that we're working on really, really hard right now. But a lot of different things that we have to make sure are the right policies so that we can have successful communities around the country. Colin talked a little bit about the dams. As a matter of fact, tonight at 5:30 over at the Federal Building, I'm having a listening session to allow members of the community to come and ask questions of a panel of experts that I'm going to have with me, or express opinions about the Snake River dams. You probably have noticed, but I think that they are under more scrutiny and more pressure than they've ever been before. And I think wrongly so. And it's up to us to be sure we continually educate and make the case of the importance of this important infrastructure to our region. And so there'll be an opportunity to do that. I'm hoping, this is going to sound kind of strange, but I'm hoping people that disagree with that premise are in attendance so that they can ask questions and hopefully have their minds changed, at least accept that there's another side to this story, that we depend on those dams for our way of life here in Central Washington. So 5 to 7 today tonight at the Federal Building. If you can make it, I'd appreciate you being there. Again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's hot and heavy with what's going on. I mean, even in Olympia, kind of the arrogance that comes out of there, and the fact that they passed a spending bill of $750 million to study the removal of the. I'm sorry, 750,000. Excuse me. Might as well end up being that cost. They might have that in lawsuits afterwards, but the $750,000 in terms of a study which really has no teeth in potentially removing the lower Snake River dams. But in the same vein, they didn't fully fund salmon restoration projects in western Washington to improve culverts so that it allows salmon that are Puget Sound salmon to restore their habitats. And they didn't fund that to the nth degree that they were supposed to by way of a lawsuit that they lost. So it kind of shows you a little bit of the education that's necessary in bringing these comments to the listening session tonight. And also of note, because looking at the Godfather himself about the U.S. Chamber, and the one thing that we share with the U.S. Chamber is both the Pasco Chamber and the U.S. Chamber were both founded in 1912, and so we've been around for a long time, hopefully doing some good work with for the businesses and such, and so and I think we've been a member ever since 1912 too. So we're probably like, if we had still member numbers, it's going to be a pretty low number, but yeah, we've enjoyed a great partnership with the U.S. Chamber throughout the years. So with that, I want to hand it over to Tara Wiswall with Edward D. Jones, our 2018-19 president of the Pasco Chamber, take us through the rest of the program. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Buck Taft with the Tri-Cities Airport, our sponsor of today's luncheon and the flight Pasco to LAX. Please give a warm welcome to Buck.
Good afternoon. Excited to be here and just give you guys a quick little update on the Tri-Cities Airport. Currently for 2019, through April, our passengers are up 15%. And this is excellent, and I think it goes to show the growth that Congressman Newhouse was talking about in our community. But we also, last year we added a third Denver flight, which has been doing great, and we also are recovering from the Alaska pilot shortage that hit us pretty hard last year. And going forward into this year, starting in June, Delta's adding a fourth Seattle flight to their schedule, and we also have the LAX flight, the nonstop service that United is providing. So with that, the nonstop service to LAX was made possible by a small community air service development grant. Most people don't know the hard work that went into this, but it's a grant process sponsored by the DOT, and this grant is awarded on a competitive process based on the strength of the route and the large fundraising effort that we were able to provide in this community. This community raised over $300,000 to make this route happen, and it still took 5 years to get it done. We don't decide who flies the route. The airlines decide if it works for them, and we met with every airline that would take a meeting with us. It took 5 years to finally get this route. So it's extremely important for the community to support this route. It's supported by a grant for the first year, and its success is heavily dependent upon passengers using it. So I just did a really quick look online to see, I've heard, what are ticket prices like? It's more expensive, and it's roughly $20 more expensive to fly nonstop with 2 hours less travel time and one less stop. So all I ask is when you're booking your trip, if you're going south or you're going to LA, that you give United at least a first look to see if it works for you, your schedule, and your budget. So thank you for your time and for choosing to fly out of the Tri-Cities Airport. Oh, we also, on your table, there's some little business cards. They're good for one free water or one free coffee when you fly out of the airport. And you give that to Tailwinds, and they will take care of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Buck. I see everybody grabbing those business cards. That's gold there. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing our Mayor Matt Watkins. Matt was elected to the Pasco City Council in 2004 and was elected as the mayor by the council in 2010. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in social science from WSU and currently works as a software engineer for Lucas Engineering in Richland. One set of Mayor Watkins' grandparents homesteaded in Eltopia during the early years of the Columbia Basin Irrigation Project. His other set owned a laundry right here in downtown Pasco, and a few years after World War II. His father continued to farm asparagus, and his mother managed the Port of Kennewick. Matt graduated Kennewick High in 1986, we won't hold that against him, and chose to make Pasco his home in 1995, in similar measure because of the diversity of the community, reasonably priced homes, and its proximity to quality tacos. Matt is an avid long-distance and adventure motorcycle rider, having toured the U.S. and Canada extensively, and he has finished the 11-day-long Iron Butt Rally 3 different times. A feat of its own. So he has an announcement today to update us on that, but let's please give an Iron Butt Rally welcome to our mayor, Matt Watkins.
So Colin asked me filing week, and I want to thank everybody who is filing for local office again. And I did a press release. I'm not filing to be a council member or mayor again, and this will conclude 16 years of service with the city of Pasco. And just for the record, I love it. I still enjoy it, do a good job at it, but there is a balance there between becoming comfortable with something, and I think it's important for another generation to be involved. I'm going to still be involved in the Tri-Cities, so let's cut to the chase. I'm going to go do some couple of years of world travel and come back and figure out what I want to do with my life. So I'll be bugging you in a couple of years, but I'm going to be a Tri-Citian through and through. Colin asked, any thoughts having done city council? At the end of this year will be 16 years with 10 of those as mayor. And I'm going to do a couple things. I have this wonderful PowerPoint presentation that Mr. Zabel presented largely to the Rotary last time, but I'm going to also intersperse that and see if we can pull this off. Of course, I'm a child of the 80s, so what 80s event wouldn't be right without a top 10 list of things I learned being a council member and mayor. So I'll try and intersperse those in and amongst a kind of a business presentation. And there's even, I'll even start with the 10th item that I learned, making a giant a little taller. Pasco has done tremendous things, and I've proudly stood on the shoulders of giants before me. Everybody in this room probably remembers, for example, Gary Crutchfield. He was a person that was and epitomized Pasco, and to work with him for so many years was so critically important. Or the Council and Port of Pasco decision to do a processed water reuse facility in the 90s that we're reaping dividends, and it's sold out, and it's a popular, great thing to do. Or also some folks in my life, kind of call them the mom team, my mother Sue, who was Port of Kennewick for many years, or my stepmother Chris Watkins at her Visitor Convention Bureau, or when I was Mayor Pro Tem, Joyce Olson next to me, to be able to, a little bit of grace and style, and be able to go hopefully a little inch or maybe a foot higher is a theme in my life. So there will be some lighthearted moments here too. So, and business. So you also saw that we changed our logo. Anybody ever find the actual cityscape in Pasco? Well, we never did have it. I hope you appreciate the logo that we've come up with. I'm personally fond of it. We've had good reception, and hopefully that lasts us for another 20 or 30 years. I think that matches our place in the Tri-Cities, as well as the vibrancy of Pasco, and still, of course, that iconic cable bridge. That's one of the things that I've been proud of and to be involved with. Of course, some details. 1891, of course, Pasco formed. Population, about 4,000. Just got the numbers that they're draft, but it looks like we're going to be over 75K this year. I know when I started on council, we were 34,000. It more than doubled in population since I've been on city council. You run across strangers, people who have chosen Pasco to be their home. Scary and exciting at the same time. We have nearly $500 million budget for every 2 years. That's just a staggering thing to think about. And 340 plus employees that, well, great thing about council is just the one employee works for you. But Dave managing all those employees and doing all of that, that's a tremendous thing. Which I think leads me to the number 9 thing I learned. When in doubt, ask staff. When you're sure, ask staff. There's a person also I think would like to call out to that has been incredibly important in my 16 years. Anybody know Stan Strebel, Assistant City Manager? He announced his retirement next year. He's not here today, but he is the example of the public servant that does the stuff that actually happens. All those employees of the city of Pasco, including Stan and Dave and others, are the ones who do the work. And city council once a week will make, blah, 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 blah at a council meeting, but they're the ones who really do the work. Never, ever forget that. And it's a case of make sure to let the professionals do their work. Check in to make sure they're not running amok, but they're the ones who are going to do the things. What else we got? How's this working for a format? Is this okay? Okay. Growth of Pasco. There's a staggering sort of chart. Of course, the line we're used to population growth and everything, but also that growth rate itself. Notice how it's almost always above zero and as high as 12%. Can you believe that in 96 or 97, we grew over 12% that year? And that's sort of the trend. It's still growing. It's just hopefully a little bit more manageable and as we become a metropolitan community. Want to highlight 2 departments. Police Department, safest city in Washington, number 3 on 79.6 score, and then most recently, there's a long-lettered acronym, CALEA. The police department as an organization became CALEA certified, and if I remember right, there are only about half a dozen or so in the state that are CALEA certified. That is a big deal. That's an example of a police department that chose to tackle an issue to become a certified entity. And I think you're going to see an effect of a more professional police force going forward. And of course, you can't have a slide with fire unless you have, or cops unless you have with fire. Anybody renew their insurance recently? I know I did. I called up and actually, I'm not saying my insurance dropped, but it didn't go up. I was kind of surprised. Us going from a 5 to a 3 standard was something the fire department championed, council went along with, and we'll spend a little bit more resources, but those details translate into fire savings and businesses as well, so not just homeowners. And, well, I don't know if this works, but another thing I learned, and so there's lighthearted parts of it, I also learned about 1/7 of the world is nuts. In and among, and I chose 1/7 because sometimes you have a council member, you have 7 council members, and so not everybody's on the same board, or you go to a meeting and there'll be a contrary sort of person, and I've seen sovereign citizen rants. I've seen a poor gentleman who really wanted us to transport a basalt column from one of our parks to Israel because Jesus was speaking through it. I also remember a former mayor of another city coming down and really ranting, and he wanted to limit management salaries to $50,000 a year, no more. Well, a little hint, if you do that, you're going to force them to become union, and they'll probably get more. So that's something we didn't do. I joke about it a little bit, but I also learned how you treat and include, or at least try to include, the intractable probably speaks a lot about your city and your society. They may be maddening, but probably the process of somebody who's a little on the extreme is going to temper your process, or at least galvanize support for the remaining folks. We had a lot of 6-1 or 5-2 decisions, and there were a lot of 7-0s too. But I think that call it world. There are some odd people in the world, and how you deal with them is important. All right, back to there. Well, we got a chart. We have a chart on housing. Pasco, #1 in the nation. Remember the times when we were doing 1,000 houses a year? Well, we're not doing that right now, which is probably okay. It's that managed sort of growth. Had a little dip down there, but we're still doing 400 houses a year. Pasco is going to grow. By 2038, we're adding 50,000 people, 120,000. And that's the middle growth, not the low, not the high. And if you're wondering if it's true, 20 years ago, they said we would be 73,000 or so this year. They were off by about 1,000. So go for the middle roads. Imagine 120,000 in Pasco. Let's see. We have assessed value, $5.5 billion in assessed value. Of course, that's additions, home values, and that sort of thing. By the way, that's not the tax rate. That's important to distinguish. Pasco assessed property value per capita. That's up significantly since 2011. And I think we're bridging the gap slowly with our peers across cities. Sometimes Pasco has to make do with a little bit less, and that's okay, but that gap's narrowing. Pasco's doing very well that. Number 7, this is hard to read. You can take the kid out of Kennewick, and I was going to say, but you can't take the Kennewick out of a kid, but actually but the Kennewick kid was actually a Tri-City kid to begin with. And that option, when I ran for council, I celebrated my Pasco credentials. I didn't talk so much about being from Kennewick. I was born here, and what I found, though, is that it's easier and easier to be a Tri-City in heart, because that's also what I think is right for Pasco. And those principles we've talked about over the years: communicate, cooperate, collaborate, and consolidate. Or actually functionally consolidate where it makes sense is the lesson that I learned. And I think the ultimate goal isn't one big giant metropolis for a community, but it's a common vision amongst the cities and the different flavors of the community for a Tri-City vision. I think we're going to be best served with that. And also part of that, Pasco is and should be more of a leader in the Tri-Cities. There's some great ideas. There's some young talent in school right now, the ag and technology, and all these things are coming together for Pasco that we should be proud and influence our Tri-City community even more. So that's if you take anything away from it, that's a charge that I would ask you to think about doing. We have property levy, and ignore the little corner where we raised some stuff recently. I swear it was strategic and important and related to fire. But that general trend, that one is a good representation of how making do with the resources that we have. And that's a trend I'm very proud of, and also even proud of the very end of it, because it's for a legit reason, and we'll be seeing that in the coming years. Another sort of thing, how we're doing compared to our peer cities. We do certainly better in Richland, comparable to Kennewick. I think learned over the years that comparing yourself to the other communities is very helpful and illustrative. And in fact, number 6, the Tri-Cities is increasingly misnamed. Folks, West Richland counts now, and maybe Prosser, Connell, Benton City, maybe too. Not so sure about Findlay. And no, folks, West Pasco, Meadow Springs, and Canyon Lakes aren't their own cities. So let's at least kind of try and keep the number down to a manageable number. Economic growth of Pasco, annual taxable retail sales and annual growth rate. That is a wonderful story and trend to continue. That's because of folks in this room in the chamber, and keep those sorts of things up. Downtown development's an important part of our community. We got to build that dang overpass. We got to get that done. It's close. Dave's going to nod and say we're going to get that done in the next year or two, or at least out to bid. 2 years, good. We need to get that done. It's not sexy, but it's critical to get that, not only connecting 2 parts of our town, but we don't want that crumbling thing to fall down. Number 5, beware the Honda Accord effect. You're wondering what that means? Well, my litmus test when you're in a snow emergency, when a typical Honda Accord can't make it from the side neighborhood out to a major thoroughfare because snow's accumulating, that's when you're going to have trouble. And so be extra patient and make sure you have a lot of snow melt and snow plows running a lot. We have new fire stations. We need to do a evaluation, and we're going to close one, remove it a little bit, put another one out north on Road 68 that is going to handle the growth out in the northwest. So there's more stuff that's happening. Hopefully I get done with this, and I'll get down to the number 1 right at the end here. Take a look at that picture, but in fact, there's even a piece in there I can see. Number 4, don't assume anything until the governor signs it. This is a lesson I've seen repeatedly, including, see, do we have a picture of the well house that was built in there that we had the money but didn't quite get the money, and we took a little chance and went ahead and spent all the money hoping they would sign it after the fact. It was a little risky, and it worked out, but it's much better just to have the governor sign it. And also the PFD bill that was signed by the governor last week. Pasco will be able to ask the question, do you want to do a regional aquatics facility? Regional is in Pasco leading the Tri-Cities to do a regional facility for the benefit all, because we're big enough and we can do the heavy lift, much like Port of Pasco doing on the giant airport renovation. It's an amenity for the Tri-Cities. Water rights, or if you want an interesting story, Jan Tidrick told me a story about flying to Olympia with a check in a Cessna to make sure that we got the cable bridge back in the 70s. So I guess it's a lesson that you that we always make sure that things are signed before you get done with it. Broadmoor area development. I think that's also a great place for a water parks facility. Somewhere in that picture on the west end of Pasco seems like a likely location. So watch for the Pasco PFD working on stuff to ask that question to the community. And also hold us accountable to make sure it makes financial sense to our community for that increased sales tax. Let's see. There's another shot of it too. I think that's a zoning. You're going to see a little bit higher density. I think you're going to see something, well, Columbia Point across the way. I think Richland did a pretty good job with that. And I think we have not only opportunity to do something like that, maybe even better. And that's a lot of acres and a lot of development with potential for 10,000 folks living, working, playing in that area. Another version of it. Number 3, tell the media your story. Involve the media. It's okay to talk with them. It's okay to maybe answer their question or if they ask a question, answer a completely different question. That's okay. You can do that because you've got a story. I think the Tri-Cities also has redeemable media, mostly. And don't lie, don't spin, or at least don't spin excessively. And in fact, I need to make a little confession. Who remember when I wadded up a motorcycle and there was a newspaper article about me hitting a sheep? Well, Kristen Kramer, I need to apologize. She called me up while I was in the emergency room. I was on the button doing the drugs, and when she asked me what I hit, I told her a sheep. Well, I called and apologized. Actually, I hit 2 sheep because when you're in a hospital room on drugs trying to explain how you killed a mama and a baby, I couldn't figure out how to do it. So that's the only time I ever remember lying to the media. So I'm now trying to come clean. I hope that's good. The other thing I learned too with the media, we had a horrible shooting, and when Cairo and CNN and Al Jazeera give you a call and leave you a voicemail, give them a call back and talk with them. Tell them your story, and that's one of the things I think is very important. What else do we have? We have River Shore Reconveyance. Boy, there's an incredible opportunity and a heck of a lot of work still to do. Pasco was born of the river. Tri-Cities was born of the river, reconnecting to it, if at all possible, in a variety of ways, whether it be private landowners or parks. Being able to reconnect to that river is vitally important. So we need to work on that as well. Marine terminal redevelopment, Port of Pasco, working with Port of Pasco, that's in between the cable bridge and the railroad bridge and beyond to that boat basin we have as well. That is some exciting future stuff that's going to go on in Pasco. Number 2, sometimes leading includes following and supporting. I talked a bit about the shooting, and that was one I didn't know what I was supposed to do as a mayor, as a figurehead, as a leader, and what happened over a fairly short period of time led off with, I think, the chief, Metzger, and Dave Zabel, the manager, helping set a tone by going and talking with the Zambrano family, talking with them. And some of the things that I did through that, I was really worried we'd have a Ferguson. And I was scared about it. You know what I did? I Googled and I found there was a gentleman, not the Ferguson people, but a couple weeks after or sometime after, there was a state police officer, a gentleman named Captain Ronald Johnson that walked with the protesters, that was with the state agency. I called him up and said, what did you do during that time? And he rattled off about a dozen things. And turns out we were doing like 10 or 11 of the 12. And that helped, following and learning helped me because I think one of the benefits was continuity of council meetings, going to those council meetings and we had protesters come in to talk with them and to be gentle and to grieve with others. I even knew somebody who knew the daughters of the gentleman who was shot. So it's all part of our community, and sometimes listening is important. And then I think it also hit home to me when we're in the response for the protest. That was a wonderful demonstration of First Amendment rights and they had a half a bag of trash. That was it. But it hit home with me as I'm in the Emergency Operations Center. A police officer went by with a bag of riot gear over his shoulder and was headed down to it, and he had concern on his face and that something that could turn out badly. I think the community's better because of that, and I think that it's because of the variety of people that exercised leadership and listened, and so sometimes not just being the figurehead, but following his way through that. I get emotional. That was tough. That was a tough one, folks. There's the progress, pride, and prosperity theme, and I would say number one thing I learned while being a council member and a mayor of Pasco is that tacos are magic. I was born in Lourdes, grew up mostly in Kennewick, but I discovered tacos in 1991 and came over a fair amount and became a Pasco resident in part because of tacos. I also found through the shooting event, I went and bought them $50 of tacos from a taco truck, and that seemed to help. Also, I've learned that my webpage about Taco Blog is the most trafficked webpage I own on my website, and I even got to share tacos with Chris Novoselic of Nirvana. That was just a little tidbit I just remember, and that the taco crawl became a Tri-Cities event. So never underestimate breaking bread with somebody, particularly tacos. So I guess with that, I would say it's been my privilege and pleasure to serve you. And being a Pasco council member and mayor has been the single best experience in my life. And I want to thank you for letting me serve. And I look forward to being a Tri-Citian and doing all those Pasco things in the future too. Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. The Pasco Chamber Board had known for a little while your intentions, and we really do appreciate all that you've done for Pasco, as well as just being Pasco and the pride that you have. So, in part, we wanted to give you a little novelty award. And something that we think that, well, maybe you can use it, but we didn't know your head size. But we got you a personalized helmet that we'd like to present to you. So if you want to come on up. And I know you probably wear a full face helmet, but we put on there the importance of tacos and have a little badge there saying that, he's a mayor of Pasco during this time. But you've always been really great in interacting with the Pasco Chamber and giving us updates and just being available at a moment's notice a lot of times. I mean, I remember one time where we had to do a ribbon cutting on Mother's Day, and Matt and I were the only two people that were there. But and thank you, Mom, for allowing that to happen. But it's just little things like that for stuff like that, and you have a leader like that in Pasco, it's really appreciated. Thank you. Yes. All right. You got a helmet on. You can take the lead. All right. So we have that gift card.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'm sorry.
door prize from the Pasco Airport. Draw a name here.
It's a $50. We're trying to find a theme for Los Angeles. So of course Hollywood being located there, we got you a $50 gift certificate to Fairchild Cinema. So with that,
The winner is Joe Roach with Atkins.
all right, Joe.
All right, hey.
That'll cover almost his whole family at the movies, but. There you go. Congratulations. Oh, we have something else?
The 50-50.
Oh, great.
For those of you who had 50-50 raffle tickets, you may want to get them out now. Got it. All right, you ready? The winning number is 327 339, and half the pot is $19. 20. Anyone?
Oh.
Did we get a winner? All right, good.
Thanks, Jay. Congratulations. Oh, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry to
that's
take
all
over.
right. It's fine. Next month's luncheon is on the 10th, June 10th, right here at the Red Lion, and it'll be the rescheduled presentation from Derek Dietrich of Basin Disposal. So all your garbage and recycling questions, bring them next month. Sorry. Thank you all for coming.